represent. Go, rest in peace.
Now we do the clap. You do the clap off. All right.
Oh, did you hear that echo?
Hi, I'm Aaron Coe. This is ScissorMeNow, and this is Derrick Shain. So, the one thing I wanted to get into with is you started. Well, first of all, the first time I ever met you, like you were laying on a bed. You were laying on a bed, like just putting all your stuff down for this cruise thing we go on called Holy Ship. And I think my audience knows about it already. But and then Taylor gave you the shittiest introduction ever. Because like I knew that we had to replace something, and like I never pay attention to what's happening until I actually get on the boat. And he like explained. He was just like, "Oh yeah, this is our replacement." Like he didn't even make you sound like a human. He just made you sound.
I was just like, "Hey, good to be here."
Yeah, and so then meet you on ship.
You had just come from Peru.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah,
so
you had just caught your plane and
so I just
harassed a bunch.
So no, that was a funny morning because I just came from La Rinconada, and I was gonna go to sleep for 3 hours and then pack my stuff and then go to Holy Ship, and then I get a call in the morning from Taylor being like, "Dude, are you at the airport yet?" And I was like, "Oh fuck!" And I pack everything in the bag, and that's why like the whole trip I only wore jeans.
Yeah. Swimming in jeans.
Yeah, I was like swimming in jeans, like on the beach and shit. And so that's how I met you. And then you lived in Kansas City, but your whole living situation in life has been pretty unusual in general because you were born in Maine.
No.
Okay. Where the fuck were you born?
I was born in the Netherlands.
What?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Alright, well, expound upon it.
Parents were in the military. So
both?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I think my father had gotten out and my mom was still in, but yeah, she was stationed over there.
Okay.
And so I was born on Halloween. My mom was attending a party because off base, right? And so she was dressed as a pregnant nun, right?
Oh my god.
You see the irony there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Good one, Mom. But yeah, so water broke at like some off base house party that she was at, and so I got taken to...
She was in costume when she broke.
Yeah, it was like the night of or whatever, but then she had to go to a local hospital, and so it was actually like a Dutch hospital instead of like what was on base, because it was like 45 minutes away or so. And so it was like the next day around like noon or so by the time I popped out.
Okay,
and
so
I was a pretty big baby.
How?
I just destroyed.
Like in terms of like beans, were you like a black bean, a lima bean, or like a fava bean?
I don't know how to answer that.
Garbanzo.
Yeah, it was probably garbanzo.
Garbanzo.
I mean, like 10 and a half pounds and like 24 inches long.
You're not even a bean.
Big old head.
Chicken nugget.
Yeah, it was big.
White meat chicken nugget.
But yeah, so I was born there. Didn't stay there for too long. Maybe like 6 months. Back to Bangor, Maine. And then mom got stationed in Alaska. Went there for like a year. And then back to Bangor, Maine. And then from there went to Junction City, Kansas.
Right.
To Grapevine, Texas. Back to Junction City, Kansas.
Okay, so
and then back to Bangor, Maine.
I didn't know that you were like a military kid.
Yeah.
So now
my parents weren't in it the whole time. It was maybe until I was in like just starting school when they were out.
Right. You tell me, dude, because it doesn't sound very common. The move to go to Maine to Kansas City, like from Maine to Missouri, that doesn't seem like a very common move.
My parents split up.
Okay.
My dad's from Maine. My mom's from Kansas. So my dad got custody.
Okay.
Lived with him, grew up in Maine, and then when I got an engineering degree, and when it came time to, start a life, I wanted to get out of the Northeast because I wasn't a huge fan of like snow and cold weather, and plus like it was very like common for people to move to Boston or New York City or Portland, Maine, and so I just didn't want to do the normal thing and decided, well, I'll just go spend some time with my mom.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know shit about Maine. You're the only person I've ever met from Maine. I've met thousands and thousands of people, and I don't know anyone from Maine. What the fuck happens in Maine, dude?
Maine's pretty dope. It's
like, what is it? What is its culture? Is it like close to like
it's close? It's close to Colorado. Like a lot of people from Maine will move to Colorado if they can get out. So the thing about Maine, like, if you stay in Maine, it's not like a, how do I say? It's not like something that you should like strive to do. Like a lot of people, not because it's bad or anything, but it's a lot of like redundancy that goes around. Like there's not much in there going on, and so like if you stay in Maine, there's like a lot of the same people you see all the time, and just a lot of like, you know, it gets very repetitive, a little boring.
Does Maine have a lot of potheads?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hence the connection to Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot of people that get out of Maine either go to somewhere in New England or usually like Colorado area. So, I mean, there's several friends that I have around this little metro area between Boulder.
When's the last time you went back to Maine?
It's been probably like 3 years or so. My father moved to Florida.
Right.
So my only real family connection up there.
Holy shit, you really went another direction going to Florida, dude.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Is he in Panhandle or like?
Like outside of Orlando, in the old people retirement area. I forget what it's called.
I don't know if this will offend like anyone, but I guess I don't really give a shit. But like, doesn't Florida like geographically kind of look like the fucking dick of the US?
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's a big hug.
Yeah, whenever they do like those fucking cyclone things that are coming through, it's like, I know I should be paying attention to like all the catastrophic shit, and this happens with anything. It's like whenever something really bad is happening, so what I thought when I saw like the hurricanes coming through, like, and it's all like red, yellow, and like lit up, and it's like patchy, you know what I mean? It's not like just like wide color streams. I'm just like, dude, this looks like a dick with syphilis. So like when I'm like looking at like, you know, when they're zooming in and out of it, and like the fucking weather woman's like touching like Florida, I'm like, gross, she's like touching that like syphilis dick on TV.
Dude, yeah, that's pretty gross.
That's pretty gross, and that's how I think.
It's very swampy, doesn't it?
Right? It's just, I don't know, I consider Florida to be like the dick of America.
Yeah, it looks like a dick.
It looks like a dick, and it's just like...
And it's pretty hot and like sweaty most of the time, yeah.
Right, and it's like, of course, you know, when Pablo was like sending like huge shipments of blow into America, of course he's going to send it to the dick of America. Why would he send it anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Maybe we got it all wrong. Maybe we should be like putting blow up our dicks.
You blow it up your dick. I'm also with that, but
that would be that's super weird. All right, so why the move to Grapevine? I know that place in Texas.
It's a northern suburb of Dallas.
It's not very tight. I'm sorry to hate on everyone you've ever lived.
It's not tight buttholes, though. Grapevine, my father's sister, so my aunt, and her husband lived in that area, and my family moved down there because they were offered a job through like a family business that was going on, some like pillow manufacturing facility. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, not quite my pillow. But
okay.
But yeah, so I was down there for a little while doing that.
Okay, so here, okay, so you, where'd you go to college?
I've been to college a few different places.
Are you kidding me?
No.
All right, I know you're still in college. Okay, but like before that, like
I went to the University of Maine.
I'm realizing how little I know about you. Okay, so you went to the University of Maine.
Went to the University of Maine from 2002 to 2006, and I got a civil engineering degree.
In 2 years?
That's 4. 2002 to 2006.
Dude, this podcast right now basically seems like I just like walked into some stranger's house. I'm just like,
this is my homie. I don't know shit about you.
I'm just like walking around with my podcast equipment, just knocking on doors, just being like, okay, we're gonna start this by
These
saying
are very historical minor details that don't usually get brought up. But.
Oh my god! All right.
Yeah, so I went there for 4 years, got an engineering degree, and then just last full school year, I went to UMKC in Kansas City, University of Missouri of Kansas City.
Right.
Their mascot is kangaroos, by the way.
Really?
Which they make, it's this cool thing about like a sister city. Sydney and Kansas City are sister cities. So if you think of the land of Oz is what Australia is called. The Wizard of Oz was in Kansas.
Right.
UMKC's kangaroos are their mascots. And there's one other.
Oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, there's one other.
Is that the reason why?
I can speculate so, but I do not know.
Because that's almost like too cool.
Oh, and another one is the Sydney Opera House.
Right.
In Kansas City, they built an opera house that resembles it, the architecture very, very closely.
That's interesting. By the way, dude, for like those who don't know, Kansas City has really, really cool architecture.
Yeah, it's got a nice artistic vibe to it in certain parts of the city.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I still really don't know what like the public's like general perception is of like Kansas City.
Not a lot. Like I feel like it's been a small city in everyone's mind for so long that it just like kind of.
But
gets
it's
pushed
not a small city.
It gets pushed to the wayside as far as like people thinking about going there in comparison. It's kind of in the exact center of the United States, almost like the heart.
Right. Okay. So, I guess like how long do you think it was? How long ago did Google Fiber roll in? Like 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 5 years ago. Something.
Okay, so you were in Kansas City during all that time. Mm-hmm. Did you see the city dramatically change in those 3 to 4 years? Because usually when you pump, you know what I mean, like new tech into cities.
Well, the thing is that it was a very prominent like engineering town. It wasn't the reason why I moved there; it just happened to be a coincidence. But no, like very strong engineering roots and like headquarter companies of like different places like popped up around there. So it's like that aspect of it was one of the major players for like Google deciding to go there. Right. In addition to like kind of the.
Oh, so you know the politics of why they ended up there? I
think so, yeah. Okay. Like it was that in addition to like kind of the younger artsy generation of kids that were facilitating themselves.
Right, because I think they were City 1, and I think City 2 was Austin. Yeah. But then now Austin's just like a metropolitan city now, because it's weird to think that like most of Austin, it's a young city.
You glad you got out?
I don't know if I got out because I'm actually strongly considering moving back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and well, because I'm at that point now where I'm not like young and I'm trying to do all the same things that I did when I was like younger.
I'm seeing a parallel to your truck. You're taking on the embodiment of your vehicle?
Yeah, I know what I want to do. You know, like I know that like I have like my responsibilities. My responsibilities towards the beauty industry have like significantly changed like in my mental scope. When I first started like 6 years ago, dude, I'll admit it to anyone, it was a hustle, right?
You were just like, this is such a fucked industry, I'm gonna try to backdoor it.
Like when I found, exactly, dude, it was an opportunity. Mm-hmm. When I saw it 10 years ago for the first time, and I got hired by Paul Mitchell's like scissor sharpener, and I remember like on our first run we made like $500 in 45 minutes, and that like really fucked me up like mentally, because I was so used to the idea of being paid by the hour, only being paid by a check, taxes, all that shit, and then all of a sudden when a whole room of people throw you $500. And he also like did the good thing too, like he made me hold on to the money the whole day, so when we finished, it was on a Saturday, we only worked for like 6 hours, and I think we had like $3,000. That's the most amount of money I've ever held in my life, and I had to count it and I had to fork it over,
and then you went straight to the roulette table.
Dude, when that happened on Reddit, when everyone was like, oh, did you know that like when you add up all the roulette numbers it's 666? I guess that's apparently a thing. Whoa. Like 1 through 36.
Okay.
I have to like try to add it up mentally, but then like I just become like too dumb.
Dude, you couldn't subtract 2006 from 2002 from 2006. How you gonna add up all?
Yeah, exactly. So I can't even do college years. So I fuck, you know, it's like weird. I'm like turning into a hairstylist. I'm gonna start. Dude, the worst thing.
What are you trying to say?
Well, the worst thing I ever saw in a salon was 90 minutes is how many hours? Like Google.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, and then like
half.
and Google. I guess a lot of people are just not savvy with conversions. So like Google just made a huge blanket thing that was just like 90 minutes equals 1.5 hours. So it's just like all done in bold letters.
Print it out, like paste it up.
Yeah, so and then stylists go, okay, cool, and then just punch 1.5 hours. And that's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that's how they do it.
I would, like most hairstylists, like straight from high school, go to hair school, so it's no like.
Well, hair school is like no joke now because it's almost just more. I think. Well, there's a lot of bizarre regulations that are different from state to state in terms of how much time you have to put in.
Yeah, I was just saying that they don't get that sort of exposure to unit conversions.
Yeah, well, like I could go on about this all day long about the hairstylist personality, and I think the thing that's like pretty amusing to me. I used to be kind of like feel like kind of weird about it, but like I pretty much am a hairstylist because like I know like the way that I think is very similar to like how hairstylists like think.
Maybe you're more of a stylist. You style the hairstylist.
I guess. I mean, like, but like I know, like, you know what I mean. Like when someone's like giving me some sort of objection or whatever, I know why they're objecting because like I know the problems that a hairstylist will go through. There's only a certain usual set of problems, and they'll be quite like honest about it. And it's always like, I guess like if you're like you're selling anything to anyone, scissors or whatever, I guess it feels good to know that like the person is like you and understands you.
You know what I was just thinking is like this is basically the driving force in your business is empathy.
So that's okay.
If you can feel what they're experiencing, understand what they're going through, they have that connection with you.
Right. So that's what I was leading up to. It's like number one was seeing all the money, and that like fucked me up. It was like, you know, being introduced to like the most hardcore drug of all time. And then like number two was forming it on my own and then realizing that like I had no boss anymore, which is a crazy feeling to realize that like you can be like your own person and you can do it when you're young. And there's nothing like an empowering feeling. Like it's different when you're older because you think about it differently, but when you're young and you're like, yes, I didn't go to college, I have a fuck ton of money and I'm making this work. You feel so successful when you're like so young, but then you realize that like it doesn't matter how old you are, you can lose anything in a second, right? Mm-hmm. Like not even the money part, your whole legacy, like who you are, anything can happen. But like that was a cool thing to experience like when I was young. Not only that, but I was also traveling and doing a lot of that what I wanted. So for like 4 years, like it was cool to think on that level that like I'm being successful. But then like what really changed it for me was I realized that like my selling style, I didn't really like it because it was effective, but it didn't generate any referrals. So what that kind of like sort of meant to me was like
spreading the word.
Yeah, the word of mouth wasn't strong. Like the sales were strong, but the word of mouth wasn't strong. So I was like, I think what I'm doing wrong is I'm not putting the right scissor into the right person's hands for exactly what they need. And I remember having that. So
this is back when you were still with Paul Mitchell?
No, this is when I was on my own. So this is like 3 years deep now.
Okay.
On my own. And so then I had that realization actually in Denver. And that's when I had my biggest sales week ever, is when I had that realization, because then I approached it differently. I started looking at people's sets a little more carefully and started looking for what I would call the missing piece, right? Because you see with people's like scissor sets, You ask them questions about how they got it, because no one asks that. No one says, can I see your scissors? And once you have all that laid out, you see the history of how like their cutting has progressed. Mm-hmm. Usually what happens with all like the people who've been cutting for a while, they had good stuff, but then there was such a flood of shitty things that came out on the market, then there's a lot of confusion. And then like what they're cutting with, they're just trying to make it work. And that's almost like, that's really sad if you think about it, because they've just gotten to that place where they're like, man, once upon a time, I was just toe tapping. Oh, like super gay.
Accident.
Like they were like, man, once upon a time we really had this cool shit, but now we're just gonna have to like whatever, just settle with whatever. So that's when things really changed, is when I started thinking about what do stylists actually really need, whether it becomes successful or not. And what ends up happening is that it becomes like the next level. And so then after that point, there are phases when I do this when I get completely sick and tired of it. And that's why I have these shifts in mentality. So like the ultimate ending of this is empathy. But to have gotten to that point, it was realizing that like I could do this for the rest of my life. And I could financially be fine, right? But it's not like I'm changing anything about the ecology of my whole industry. Mm-hmm. You know, like what am I doing to actually contribute? So I think like that, gaining that type of mentality has helped me in every aspect of my life. Like how do I contribute to my friendships? Mm-hmm. How do I contribute to my family? How do I contribute to myself? And how do I, you know, contribute to my industry, and how do I contribute to others? Mm-hmm. And I think that sort of like community-oriented mindset has made my life astronomically better in so many ways. And so that's why I think the podcast is so important, is because I get so much more joy out of this than just doing scissors, because I've known my clients for 5 to 6 years. I don't want to fucking talk about scissors anymore. That's such a boring topic. Right. You know what I mean? It's like if we were like, it's like if we were bike heads and we're talking about like bikes for like 5 years. It's like, dude, there's other shit we can fucking talk about, dude. Yeah. It doesn't have to just be bikes or whatever. But yeah, you're right. Then in that empathy has become the driving force behind all this.
Yeah, it's like almost like a spiritual sort of progression for you in a way, like helping people in a way.
Right.
By helping the industry by addressing needs and feeling what they need. Right.
So the interesting part about that is that now that I've adopted that mentality, I don't know what comes next, which is interesting. Like, because I don't know what the next stage of the evolution is. And I think it's almost too hard for me to see right now because I'm so engrossed in this.
Yeah, one thing that I've come into recent consideration with is like curiosity. And curiosity I now think of as like the fuel for my soul. The more curious I am, the more energy I have towards like understanding things and finding out different aspects of life. And even like going on further from that, there's this concept called generativity, which is like a progressional stage, like generativity versus stagnation. And so generativity is like once you learn this stuff, that need to like express yourself and help people understand the same things that you're learning, that you're like fueling your internal fire. Like you want to spread the word, help people understand, and like
right. And I'm glad there's a lot of platforms these days for like expressing that type of communication. Like first of all, thank God there's fucking YouTube. You know, that people can actually, anyone can just throw a video up and express themselves.
Like 1996 Honda Accord. Like
that is the best thing ever, dude. It's like, it's so awesome. And the whole thing about like generativity, definitely, like my friend Stephanie, she, you know, she works, but she wants something a little bit more, but she doesn't know what that is. And I think that's a lot of people. They want something a little bit more, but they don't know what it is. So for her, it's like, she's like, well, I'm going to interview my friends. And it's like, her friends aren't like celebrities or like any of that stuff, but it's like, you think about it, it's like, does it really matter? You know what I mean? It's like, does it really matter if you know, like anyone famous is on my podcast? Like, no, not really, because it's all really just about the content. So she started interviewing all of her friends, and she's doing the best that she can to form these interviews, and everyone is progressively better and better and better. And so I think that when you're even given just a small outlet to express yourself, it changes everything about your consciousness entirely. I think it's when you aren't able to that really bad shit starts to happen. And I don't think a lot of people can identify what is sort of rotting and eating at you when you're not able to express who you are.
Yeah, it's like in order to be happy, you have to find the gift that was given to you. And this gift is like expressive nature of your creative, whatever creative aspect that you eventually find in yourself. And so your friend, like, you know, working with video and talking with her friends and stuff like that, she's feeling that sort of creative energy flowing through her. And if you think about the word emotion, right? Emotion is what causes a lot of problems with people in general. It'll really like eating away at them, like you were saying. But the word emotion, if you break it down, it's energy and motion, right? So if you find a channel where you can channel this energy out into a positive way, you find that your emotions start to regulate themselves, and you're actually a lot more happy.
I like how you're just shooting it all out of your dick. like power, you're like power shooting it all out of your dick. So to go back, you were doing civil engineering. How do you think of it now? And after everything you've been through, like, how do you think about it? How did you think about it then, and how do you think about it now? Because that's the one thing I wanted to get into with, is like your journey to how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. At the time, my initial thought of what I wanted to be getting into school was a teacher, actually. And the reason I thought this was I was like...
like teaching engineering?
No, just like teaching anything. Like math and science I was good at, so like teaching math and science to kids.
So you would have been like a high school math teacher?
Yeah, something like that. And the reason why I was focusing in this way is because I had a plan to play like college football. And being, you know, engulfed in a whole football program with a lot of traveling and a lot of shit, like that'd be like an easy sort of education degree to get at the same time, so it all like fit symbiotically together, you know.
Sure.
But you know, shit kind of fell through with the football thing, and I ended up not wanting to pursue it. And so I was just like, my mind changed, and what should I be? Because my mindset at the time was easy education. But now, like, that I'm only going to school to go to school, I should apply myself to, like, make more money. And that was the concept, make more money.
Right.
And so engineering, I was just like, math, science, like, engineering, it's got to be a good way to go. But I was never one of those kids that wanted to, like, take a toaster apart to, like, see the guts of it and figure out, like, oh, like, that's how it works, and, like, put it back together. I would never had that, like...
Isn't that, like, weird how, like, people put that stereotype with engineers? Because Taylor's not even like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't really even think of Taylor as an engineer. He's like an inventor, because he likes to invent shit, you know?
Yeah, it's a different type of engineering,
I
think, but engineering, like, concepts.
So...
It's kind of like inventing, but...
So, like, so did you apply for jobs when you were in Maine?
No.
Okay, so this was in Kansas City.
Yeah. When I graduated, it was 2006, and it was right before the collapse of the economy in, like, 2007.
Right.
And so there wasn't really a lot of, like, competition for a job. So I didn't even do, like, internship or any sort of, like, stuff in the summertime in school.
That's trippy.
So I was just, like, coasting through and knowing that I would get a job. And then when I graduated, I just, like, took a couple months, like, working with my uncle to save some money, and then drove out. And just started
working this job.
Yeah, started working a job.
And how many years did you do it again?
8.5 years.
Oh, that's a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Wow. Jesus, man. So what happened with the company? Because, like, you had an interesting situation that I don't think a lot of people really would have pulled the trigger on.
Right. Yeah.
So, talk about that part.
So, just leading up to, like, the latter years, I was feeling a lot of, like, disgruntled nature towards the company I was working for. It was like there wasn't a lot of engineering people. It was more like a sales-driven company, but there were engineers. Okay. And so, like, when my boss that had been there for a little while, he left the company, and then, like, we got some different managers in. So I was, like, the most experienced engineer, but I was still only in my, like, mid to late 20s. And I felt this sort of, like, discrimination or, like, just because I was young, they didn't, like, treat me as an equal. Like, all the older people just, like, would circumvent me and, like, go around and, like, just, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
You're just left with a shitty feeling?
Yeah, kind of. And I was just like, this is dumb. Like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm the highest ranked engineer here, but I was just getting, like, discriminated against.
Yeah.
Age discrimination in a way. And so that kind of was fuming in me.
That's a weird type of discrimination, too. Yeah.
And so it was fuming in me for a while, but I was, like, too content with, like, not looking for another job because, you know, I would show up at like 7 a.m. and I wouldn't really start working until like 9 a.m. just because, like, I didn't have to. Like, I could do everything so efficiently that I, like, shit that needed to be done in a time frame, I could just take my time.
So you could, like, Facebook, like, toilet scroll.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the first 2 hours I really didn't do anything, and then, like, I would leave at like 4 p.m. So, like, the last, like, hour of work too, I would just kind of, like, dick around. And so I was, like, making a lot more money if you think of, like, the ratio of, like, how much do you actually work.
Time spent versus. So you get to the 8.5-year mark. What happens?
My company ends up getting bought out by Johnson Controls Incorporated. And as a part of general practice, when companies get bought out, is they like to trim the fat, they say.
Right.
And so, in looking at the demographics of the people that worked for my company, it was a lot of an older crowd. So instead of, like, just going in and laying off 15% of the people, they proposed to have a voluntary separation package because a lot of people were getting close to retirement age. They were kind of like, here, we'll give you this just to, like, get you to retire early, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I was just like, ooh, like, that's interesting. I'd like to sign up for that. And so I signed up for it, not really expecting to get approved because I had to go through, like, an approval process. But because of, like, the clash nature that was going on between me and, like, different other people and shit, they, like, approved it. And
Wait,
I was
who are other people?
just like managers from, like, different departments.
Okay.
Like the sales department and stuff like that.
So by the end of 8.5 years, like, it was just a bit of a weird sesh between you and everyone in the company.
Yeah. Not everyone in the company, but, like, a lot of the people. A lot of, like, passive-aggressive stuff going on and, like, just not working as a cohesive unit, you know?
Yeah, that's a topic for maybe another time, but, like, do you think there's almost, like, a expiration date as to, like, when you are working, like, a corporate job like that, to, like, how long you should work it? You know what I mean? Like, because you know how people will split into, like, 25 years at something?
Yeah.
And that's almost, like, too fucking long.
Yeah, it's been more of a paradigm shift with the new generation of kids.
I think so, too.
It's like, prior to, like, my age and whatnot, it's always been, like, you got one job, you work your whole life. And now it's like everyone's just bouncing around finding different jobs all the time.
Right, and because we're not, like, sacrificing for our kids and making them feel, like, guilty. You know, like, do you understand the bombs and tanks I had to dodge?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so, right around the end of, it's been so many years, it's hard to keep them straight. I think it was the end of 2014 going into 2015.
It was, the beginning of 2015, because that's when I met you on SHIP. Okay. So, you left with the severance package, and essentially, you had... I don't know, I can't remember the exact words of what you called it.
Midlife retirement.
You're like midlife retirement, yeah. Or like, you call it like vacation something.
Yeah, the reason I called it midlife retirement too was that I had a retirement fund, and they basically were like, hey, you have to roll this over into the next company you work for. And then at that time, I was just kind of like, I wanted to take some time off, like give myself a month vacation before finding another job, but I didn't have that luxury to like hold on to this money. So I was just like, give it to me. So I got like $60,000 out of my retirement fund just given to me.
Wow, so you just took the $60K cash?
Yeah.
And so, but your plan wasn't to find a job in a month, was it?
Originally, yeah. Like I just planned on like finding another job.
So like you go on SHIP, and like what changed afterwards? Because I guess like that was your first excursion, right?
Yeah. I mean, holy ship, yeah.
Yeah, like after the job and stuff. Did that affect anything about how...
I don't think it really played a big part in my decision making. I think it was like the more time that I spent away from working in a corporate job, the more value I found in the freedom and not like dealing with all that fucking bullshit that I had to deal with all the time. It just was like liberating.
So you got to relax a lot from all that shit. So when you came back, were there any stretches of boredom for you?
Not necessarily, because I did have this nest egg of money and I planned like the whole 2015 year. Like
that's right, because you were traveling and you went everywhere. Because you actually did go to Australia, right?
Yeah, I went to Australia and New Zealand in like March of that year.
Right.
And then I ended up going to Shambhala Music Festival for the first time that summer. Up in Canada, I fucking love Canada. And then I went
by the way, I don't know if you want to tell it, but you have like the best Shambhala story ever.
Which one?
The E-prom one.
E-prom?
Where you're supposed to meet like Zoe.
Dude, that's not. Oh yeah, that was the last year. But that was This is.
We won't tell that story.
This is a long. It's a long, deep story.
I won't tell that story, but this story is fucking hilarious.
Oh
man. Just to see your face though.
I don't think I've actually told you that story. You probably heard it.
I heard it through Dom.
Yeah. And so it's probably a little convoluted to what actually happened.
Right, but like it's even funnier that like someone tried to bite a DJ. Is that what happened with E-prom? Like someone jumped on stage.
It wasn't E-prom. It was Justin Martin.
Oh, someone tried to like bite him, right? Like someone jumped on stage.
If anyone tried to bite him, it was me. But I don't. But I don't recall like getting that close to him.
Oh my god!
Although
Oh no! I'm talking about like a separate incident, not your incident.
Oh.
I think there was someone who tried to who jumped on the stage and tried to bite.
Oh yeah, that vaguely sounds familiar.
Bite a DJ, which is why your story, you trying to just get up on the stage, fucked.
Oh, really set off.
Yeah,
the
that's
alarms.
why I set off the alarms, because that incident happened the night before. I don't know if you know that.
That makes sense.
Does that make more sense to you?
I feel like I did hear about that, but I never connected the dots like that.
Yeah, so I think that's why yours ended the way it did.
Interesting.
So, but then you went down to South America.
I did.
And you did this ayahuasca trip.
I did.
And it's essentially the most powerful psychedelic sort of trip that
I consider it a cornerstone to the self-actualization of my life.
Right.
Really lighting the fire on my spiritual journey, because my spiritual journey started that summer when I was at Wakarusa. I can tell you this story because it's kind of short.
Bashman's told me some Wakarusa stories, but anyways. Yeah.
So my initial start with spirituality, I had taken a research chemical mixture that's supposed to replicate LSD and MDMA together. It was
really?
NBOME, NBOME. I forget the other letters associated with it, but research chemical. So I take it at 8 p.m. one night, trip, whatever, all through the night, and about 8 a.m. rolls around, and I'm the only one awake at the campsite still, but all the visuals, everything is gone. I just feel normal,
right?
Still awake. So I reach and get into my supply, and I pull out my canister for nitrous oxide, load up a few, and I just fucking rip this giant fucking rip of nitrous oxide, and I'm sitting there, and we're in a canopied area, and the mountains are over there, and I'm holding it in, and then I just look over at the mountains, and all of a sudden a pinnacle is in the sky, and it's just beaming silver, goldish shit from it, and I'm just what the fuck? I bring my perspective back to the center after looking at it for a few seconds,
right?
And I'm exhaling, so it's really starting to come in, and all of a sudden misty cloud fog and shit's just rolling by me, and I can hear all this chitter chatter and voices of recognizable voices, but sort of not like trauma, but like people that have had like kind of like depressive stuff going on with them and stuff.
Right.
And then it was almost like this non-verbal but like integrative sense that rushed over me that was basically telling me that like, don't worry, you'll understand when you get here. And that just blew me away. And I was just like, holy fuck, like I just tapped into like a spiritual sort of like dimension for a second because of this disassociative.
Yeah,
like,
you know what's interesting is like the thing you just said, it's like regardless of how you got there, you know, whether you achieved it through, you know, meditation or candy flipping and taking nitrous, it's like regardless, to arrive at that conclusion, it's an amazing thing to arrive at, right? Because who cares how you got there,
right.
But you did get there. And so you've left this like world of like just shitty engineering that like, I mean, engineering's not shitty, but you just didn't like it.
Right.
It's not who you are. And you're going through all of this like spiritual stuff. And wait, what made you really want to pursue? Because I don't think this was your ambition in the beginning, but what made you want to pursue like an understanding of yourself? Because usually when people have like a good amount of money, at the very end of it, nothing good really ever like ends or happens. You know, they just become a person without money. That's what ends up happening normally.
Yeah, a fool will part with his money soon, right?
Exactly.
However the phrase goes.
So what? How did this happen?
So yeah, like throughout this whole process, there was a lot of like strange like serendipity, synchronicity type stuff that would happen to me leading up to my Peru trip. And in retrospect, I like to think back on it that like if you are spiritually progressing on the path and like following the proper way, like path and like your experiences, like things will fall into place for you automatically. It's almost like the manifestation is the...
When did you start believing this? Like what were the first signs of you just being like, hey, like I think this spiritual journey is like the way I want to go?
It's probably the Peru. Like I said, it's the cornerstone for like really changing my view. But like thinking back on it, because I had made the plans for that Peru trip back before I even went to Australia. It was just like planning it out that far in advance and shit was just like falling into place leading up to it. So I had like a few other like pretty spiritual experiences.
Okay, so way even before like when you were in Australia, like what appealed to you about like wanting to follow the path that you were on?
Well, the thing is I didn't know I was on the path. I'm saying in retrospect, after like integrating your experiences and understanding it, looking back on it, you're just like, wow, like all this shit was happening for a reason, like manifesting itself in a way.
I guess the reason I ask is because like I feel I have a similar thing. It's like me starting to road trip with all the scissors and stuff and going around. I didn't know that would amount to anything or what it would become. Like there was no prediction in that would be the genesis of Moto, or how that would work. All I knew is that the reason why I was doing it was because I wanted to be a free person, and I wanted to be free and not have anyone fuck with me. And I didn't want to road trip with someone else. The whole point of it was to like go through it on my own, which is why like even though you did a lot of things with a lot of different people, you kept this solitary journey, you know what I mean, all the way through, went through Peru and boomeranged back up here. And then after all that, like how did you get...
Do you want me to dive into the Peru aspect of it a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Talk about the ayahuasca trip.
Yeah. So this whole time, like I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I was just like, you know, kind of not like running out of money, but like getting on the low end where I'm just like, fuck, like maybe I'll just get find an engineering job when I get back.
Oh no, you had that thought?
Yeah, just because like I wasn't sure. And so I remember like applying to some places that had like cool like architecture based engineering stuff that seemed like more of like creativeness to it. Didn't end up getting any callbacks or whatever because of the gap of time that I had taken off or whatever. I would imagine that was the reason.
Right.
But yeah, so when I was in Peru, like I had this really like peak experience during one of the sessions. And what had happened was...
Did you take it more than once?
Yeah, like 4 times in a week.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. So like each one, like you kind of set your intention before the session, just
right.
like whatever aspects that you wanted to work on in yourself. So there wasn't a specific aspect for the 3rd session, but it was just the experience of it. And so what happened was, you're in a Maloka, there's 20 different people, everyone's got mats in a circle basically.
Right.
There was someone that was close to me, his name was Andrew, and part of a pre-ceremony tradition or ritual, they had organically grown jungle tobacco in cigarette form that was called Mpacho, like the spirit of the tobacco was called Mpacho, and you would light one up and blow it on your arms and like blow it in your hand and like rub it, and like it's the sequence of like how you would put this extra layer of protection all over you. The reason being is that there's so many like different sort of spiritual energies floating around that can be negative, like you didn't want it to affect you during your experience.
How many people did you do this with?
Probably like 15 or 20.
Did you find any commonality between any of them, or were they all kind of like, because that crowd tends to like draw some like weirdo hippie.
I mean, everyone was there with the intent to like discover themselves.
Okay, so you chose a good group.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most people that go down there to do that, that's kind of the reason you're doing it.
Right.
Figure either like working on deep internal trauma.
Like no one was there like playing a sitar.
No.
Like, okay.
No. No. I mean, I ended up buying a pan flute or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the one in the South Park episode where it like basically brings on like World Doom?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
But so anyways, during the session, as we start, you drink the ayahuasca. Everyone does one at a time, and then you eventually will purge in either out your mouth or out your butt, depending on.
Yeah, I've heard about this. So it's like you just shit, or like
it all depends on like how you.
So
you've addressed your diet.
Did you wear Depends diapers?
I never shit once.
Did you see people that just...
Some people had to go. And it was just like, it was because of like, how did you prepare your body ahead of time by like not eating meats and not eating spices and trying to eat more like raw fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. That won't prevent you from like having to shit.
Oh my God, I think I would shit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So anyways, this guy, he starts to purge or whatever, and it's like everyone's doing their purge at different times, usually within like the first 15 to 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so. But he starts to purge, but it just like keeps going on, and he's in like probably a solid like 45 minutes pass, and he's just like dry heaving and shit like in this bucket.
Right.
And the facilitators eventually come over to him, and they're like, Andrew, are you okay? Like, do you need to go to the bathroom? This and that. And he's like, no, I gotta stay. I gotta keep doing this. Mother Ayahuasca is telling me I need to get this out of me, this and that. And like, he's close enough where I can hear it. Meanwhile, the shamans are like singing their carols.
Right. And for most people that like don't understand what ayahuasca is, they're like speaking to my own audience right now. Like, ayahuasca is... It's a psychedelic drug, but like what characterizes it and makes it a little bit different is that it has like an entity that talks to you and guides you.
It's plant medicine used for generations upon generations in South American culture.
But that like term like Mother Ayahuasca, like you never hear like Mother Mushroom or Mother LSD.
Yeah, the general consensus is like Mother Nature in a sense. Yeah. That the connection that we have to everything is kind of like brought to fruition during these experiences. Yeah. So, DMT, yeah, if you know. If you know DMT, that's what's in it. So anyways, he says this or whatever, and like my ears perk up to it because he's so close to me. I'm just like, whoa, this guy's battling some shit over there, like demonic shit. And so just instinctively, I pull out a fresh cigarette and I light it up in Pacho, and I started blowing like arrows at him. Like visualizing like arrows of smoke like going towards him, and it wasn't like I was like stay away. Right. It was like maybe this will help him, or like
I like how they're arrows, dude. They're like weapons.
you know, like maybe it would help him like in his battle that he was doing, right? So I go through like a whole bacho, and he's still dry heaving and shit. And so the facilitators go up to the shamans, and during each ceremony, you kind of, based on your intention, you go up there at a specific time, and then they'll sing a song directly to you and your intention.
Right.
But they kind of like, you know, shortened it up a little bit and said, this guy needs to go up there now. He's really going through some shit. And so he gets up there, and at this point I can't hear him anymore because of like the songs and stuff being sung. But it was like my mental energy was connected to him in a way, because everything that I was hearing from the shamans that were directed to him and helping him really started to resonate with me. And my visuals all became a lot more intense, a lot more like shining, glimmering, culminating in a Trinity symbol, which, you know what a Trinity symbol is? It's like
we'll flash it on the camera so that like people can understand it.
Gotcha. A Trinity symbol just was glowing, just a bright golden color, and just like beaming like streams of light out of it, like right in the center of my vision. And I'm just sitting there like, whoa, like that is pretty fucking cool looking. Like, and I'm just kind of like staring at it while the song's going on, and I kind of like lose my focus on him. But then the song winds down or whatever, and I can still hear him up there. And at this point, his voice has dropped a register or two. So if it were me, like, this is how I normally sound, it was like...
So his purging is just getting more intense.
Yeah, like super intense. And so, like, again, I'm like back onto the focus. I'm like, oh, fuck, like, oh, shit, like... And then all of a sudden, I just, like, instinctively, again, I close my eyes, I put my fingers to my temples, and internally I talk to myself in a way that I say, or I guess I'm talking to Ayahuasca, but I say, Mother Ayahuasca, I appreciate everything you're trying to show me, but I think Andrew could use my energy more than I need it right now.
Right.
And then a few seconds after I said that, like, the Trinity symbol and, like, all of the different textural swirling surrounding shit just, like, acid washes away into nothing. And it's like I'm sober again. And I'm just like looking around, and then like maybe a minute later at the most, like the final purge happens up there, and he defeats the demon like on the spot.
Wow.
And so I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, did I really just transfer my energy to him, and he really just defeated the demon like right now? And like, even though I had stopped like visually like tripping and stuff, like I felt this inner joy and like elated feeling of like, I helped this guy. Like I helped him do that. Like that's incredible. And then like, so I really kind of took that to heart. And then like the next day when we all kind of got together to tell our stories, he obviously was the first one to tell his story because it was so like, so dramatic at the time. And I'll just tell you the details. He said that the whole time he was looking into the bucket, these like demonic eyes were just staring back at him, like not wanting to like leave or whatever. So he was just like trying to puke. And the very last purge that he had wasn't an actual like oral purge. It was like a burst of snot came out of his nose.
Like physical snot?
Physical snot. Like bursted out of his nose. And then like, and then, you know, I had told everyone, I was like, I need to tell my story second, you know, to follow that up. And then I told the whole story, and like, he just gets up and just has like tears in his eyes and comes over to me and just like gives me this giant bear hug.
Wow.
And he was just like, I fucking love you, man. Thank you so much. And like all this shit. And that just really like melted me.
So that was experience number one.
That was like the first experience where I really figured out that helping people is like my purpose in life and like what I feel the most joy in doing.
Trips 2, 3, and 4, did they just further reinforce that?
Like after that, or what? Or before?
Oh, did you only take ayahuasca once, or did you take it 4 times? You said you took it 4 times.
Took it 4 times. That was the third session.
That was the third. Okay.
Yeah, no, like it didn't like all of a sudden like manifest as to like this is what I want to do now, because I still was confused about like how to do it and what to do. Conclusion from the whole trip was the first thing I did when I got home. I was just like, okay, like let me get on Google real quick. Psychedelics plus psychology.
Right.
And just like seeing what popped up. And then the notion of transpersonal psychology was one of the things that came out. And transpersonal means like progressing yourself spiritually, like in trans meaning like across, and personal yourself, so like spiritual progression in a way through sort of like experiences like this. And it had like a whole different wide range of possibilities of having this experience, but one being psychedelics. So then the next thing I did is I said, okay, like this would be a cool thing to study. Like, is there schools that offer some sort of coursework in transpersonal psychology? And the school.
So once again, transpersonal psychology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the school that I'm at now, Naropa University here in Boulder, they have a program called Mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling. So for me, that combines the aspect of helping people with the same like concepts of transpersonal psychology that I really like dug into. And how I dug into it was I all of a sudden just like searched transpersonal and like authors, and I just bought books on Amazon and like just started reading books about it, and I was like yeah, like this is exactly what I'm into.
So the ayahuasca, it was really fucking life-changing for you.
It's like I said, it was the cornerstone of my life. It really, because the whole time, like, previous life was just ego-driven, about making money, partying all the time, doing nothing, like, with myself, you know?
Right.
But this just lifted the veil.
Were you happy in that state of mind when you were doing it? Because some people, like, you know what I mean? Like, they could just do all that and just be enjoying their lives.
Yeah.
Were you enjoying your life, or did you feel like there was still something kind of fucked up?
Like during
all that time when you were, you know, making money, partying, having fun?
It was a very like stagnant feeling. Like I didn't look to the future. I didn't have that thought about like I need more. You know, it was just more like, oh, I've got my paycheck. Like, where are we going this weekend? Like, let's go to this bar. Let's get wasted.
Right.
It was just like a continuous cycle of nothing. So I felt really.
So it was always on your mind, like.
Maybe subconsciously,
yeah,
but not in my conscious thought. Like it was just that cycle, not till like towards the very end, but it was more about me just not liking the company and wanting to like find another job. But once I separated myself, the more time I stayed away from it was the more like transgressions happened towards finding myself.
Wow. So do you ever think at any point that, you know, where you're at right now, like how far you've come, like you've seriously committed to it, that there was any other possible route for you to get here? Or do you think that like the way that like you approached wanting to discover yourself, plus, you know what I mean, coming to all the conclusions, plus all the psychoactives?
Yeah, I mean,
because it seems like it really organically just sort of blossomed as you tried to go through this.
It's kind of a loaded question with, you know, like what aspects of my life would I have changed in the past? But it's like everything's been happening, like I said, in a very like synchronicity. Like,
that's what I'm trying to say is that's a cool fucking story. Is because like most people, like I said, like when they're given money, it's like I was an Uber driver the other day, and he was just like, yep, went to the military, got this money, sure had a fun time in my 20s, driving an Uber now, you know? It's like once you have money, most people don't end up anywhere. It's like the same shit over and over again.
Yeah, like one of the keys to life is figuring out like about what makes you happy versus what makes you suffer.
Right.
And suffering, the core genesis of suffering is from like cravings and aversions. Things that you want that you don't really need, and things that you just don't like just because of your projections on things,
like the Honda commercial.
You're different. You do things your way. That's what makes you one of a kind. You don't need things. You're happy with who you are. You don't care about money. You have everything you've ever wanted. You don't do it for appearances. You do it because it works. And this is not a card. This is you. It's a lifestyle. A choice. Your choice. purchasing a used 1996 Honda Accord, a car for people who have life figured out and just need a way to get somewhere. Luxury is a state of mind.
You were actually the first person I thought of when I saw that fucking commercial, dude.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, like...
Why do you need money?
The message that it was sending was very, very
I loved it.
Congruent with me.
I loved it, dude. It's just like, the first thing I thought of when I saw that was just like, wow, how much fucking BS do I go through every day?
Yeah.
Just with everything, dude. You know what I mean? Just like being at the fucking gas station and punching in my fucking stupid phone number so I save like 10 cents. You know what I mean? Off of like something that's just like whatever.
Yeah.
And like, so it's like when I saw the fucking car commercial, I showed it to probably like 20 people that day, and no one had a similar reaction to what I had. Like, to me it was like enlightening.
Yeah.
To finally like see something in a professional format like that and just be like, wow, like this person doesn't give a shit about appearances. They're fucking comfortable with who they are. Mm-hmm. This person doesn't give a shit about money because they're already happy with themselves. They don't, you know what I mean? Like,
it's magical.
Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter, because if you fucking like yourself, then all the rest of it is just BS. Like, entire BS.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is what I was just talking about, the ego. The ego is what drives people to want things and to hold on to these social constructs and paradigms that they think is necessary for life. But like, when you break it down, you really just have this energy inside of you, right?
Right.
And like, this energy is based on a soul that you have. And people are so afraid of dying too, but dying is not
it's like a weird thing. I don't understand.
Dying is not like the end of anything, because Einstein told us energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? And if you look at humans at molecular levels, we have much more space inside of us than we do physical boundary. It's just because it's so small, it makes us feel like it's physical. Everything is just like atoms at a very, very small molecular level.
I guess when it comes to dying too, personally, I myself don't give a shit if I die. You know, I almost kind of love that part in The Hangover 3 when like Leslie Chow is on the windshield with the parachute and they're driving and they can't fucking see a thing.
Yeah.
And then like Stu's freaking out and then Leslie was like laughing like, ha 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 ha, finally we get to die. You know? And it's like, I kind of related to that. I was like, yeah, sure, if I finally get to die, cool. I think the thing, I mean, I'd just be more worried about like my family, honestly. Right. My friends, whatever, you know, they move on. But like I don't give a, if I die, dude, I've pretty much have done almost everything that I've wanted to do, like that I can think of so far. The only thing about me living longer is that I'm just going to discover more shit that I want to do, and then I'll probably end up doing it, since I don't care about, you know, being humiliated or embarrassed, or none of those emotions affect me anymore, because they've happened so many times that who gives a shit, you know? It's like, I was just making this joke the other day, like, you know my stories and shit, like
most of them, and
how if you didn't know me at all, and I started telling you these stories, you would think I was lying. Yeah, and pathologically. And that's the funny part, is like everyone has the same reaction. They're like, they agree. They're like, yeah, you are a liar. You sound like a liar entirely.
You're a good liar.
And it's like, then I think, I'm like, should I, like, I'm telling the truth, but it sounds like I'm lying. And I realized, oh fuck, this has been happening for like the last like 8 years. Everyone thinks I'm a liar. And then I freaked out and I thought about it for a second. I was like, well, what am I going to do? Because if I'm not going to lie to like sound truthful, so I guess I'm just a liar. You know? So
yeah, I don't know. People.
That's what I mean, is like I've realized that like I don't have control of it, and I was so unaware of it, and I never gave a shit about it anyway. It's like you could choose to believe that I was a liar or telling the truth. And now that's kind of what I realize now, is that like pictures are really important. so like I take the picture now. But then like that's even a more fucked up thing, is because then when I even like throw in the picture, it's like people already mentally have like been like, he's a liar. You know, they've already boxed me in. So the picture, it doesn't help.
They're like, he made that picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he took that from his friend. Like, nah, that's something, you know. He's got some guys to pose with him. And so, Derrick, I'm a liar.
You're okay. I like your lies.
I'm a fucking liar, dude. So, that's...
I have a real hard time lying.
Me too!
Like, it makes me feel real uncomfortable if I lie to somebody.
Yeah.
Like...
It's
almost like an emotional response that's just like, you shouldn't be lying.
It's a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
It's a really shitty feeling. And like, if you look at me, it's like, how many times you see me feeling shitty? Like, rarely.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I just don't lie to people. And so it's, but I'm a liar.
I have a hard time, man. Like, even if it's like, in order to protect somebody, like, I'm good at acting and like dry humor, joking and shit like that. Like I can really get people going. But if it comes to like lying to somebody and having to like put on a poker face to like execute the lie, oh my god, you can see right through me. I'm just like, oh, I can't do this.
I'm a horrible liar, dude. It's like, if I got pulled over and like if a cop asked me if I'd been drinking, I feel weird even just being like, can I have a lawyer? Like, you know, like, because I want to answer the question and be like, yeah, man, I fucking had an Irish car bomb. Yeah. Like, oh shit, probably not the best thing to say, car and bomb, you know? But
I got pulled over one time. I had empty stomach. I drank like 4 or 5 beers, so I knew I was like,
oh, you were there, yeah.
But I had also been eating some MDMA.
That's not what I saw the story come to.
And so when the cop like initially came up to me, I just like whipped my head up at him and was just like, hey, how's it going? And just had like this positive attitude.
You're like fucking Jim Carrey. And
it was just like, oh, like, and he's like, have you had anything to drink tonight? And I was like, yeah, I had a couple beers, but you know, just heading out to Westport now. And he was just like super chill about it.
What? You're heading out to Westport? You're heading in or out?
In.
So you're basically, you drank a few beers and now you're heading into the place to drink more beers.
Yeah. And he just like, you know, long story short, just let me go, like without even having me get out of the car or anything, dude, just because of the attitude I projected.
That's an interesting thing to think about. Do you think in a cop's mind, they're like, okay, well, if I caught him drunk going home, he's definitely not getting home. What do you think? Or do you think they're more like,
help stimulate the economy?
Yeah. They like catch you and you're like, oh yeah, man, I'm just head down, you know, to like blow $100 in Westport. And they're just like, yeah, I'll get him later.
I'll be watching you.
They'll write the license plate down. They just like relay it to everyone. Yeah. But then like you just take an Uber.
Yeah.
Or just fuck some chick.
Yeah, I mean it's a possibility.
Yeah.
In a strange world, but yeah, no, I think it was definitely like just the interpersonal like exchange that we had where I made him feel like a human being instead of an asshole cop, you know.
Yeah, and
he just like didn't have like his defenses.
Were you on the Kansas or Missouri side?
Missouri
side? Okay.
Yeah, if I was on Kansas side. No.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, Kansas has like the most aggressive, ruthless cops ever.
It's because their whole state is like basically bankrupt, so they're trying to make as much money as they can all the time. So they're like,
oh, of course.
Yeah, they'll try to get you for everything, no matter what.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, I like how you were like talking about like, I made this guy human, and then like I'm like, oh, which side was he on?
Yeah, it's hard to make Kansas people human.
Oh fuck, man. So what? So you're in school now. How many more years do you have left?
I'm in my first semester right now, my first year, and it's a 3-year program. So.
Okay, and so by the time you're done with this, do you want to have your own clinic? Or is that still some, like, I guess because of like the way that ayahuasca like hit and affected you, and like you realize like you ask this entity for something, and you saw the magic that came from it. Do you look at life almost in the same sort of like way where like you look at life and it's like you're going through what you're doing exactly what you want to do, so do you even really give a shit about any of that? Or does that even matter because you're just doing what you want to do right now?
It's kind of like a philosophy quantum mechanic philosophy of like multiple dimensions, multiple life things that can all happen at the same time. But when you break it down into an easier way to understand it, it's almost like your intention is the force of manifestation. So as long as you have a positive regard to what you're intending to do,
right,
for in my case, like help people, that's like kind of one of the golden rule things about like, you know, put yourself in service of others is like a very like religious, biblical, like all different kind of religious things,
right,
like how to achieve
well, that's an interesting thing about religion too, is that most religious, you know, texts, or, you know, at least within the big ones, they primarily ask you to be a servant. Mm-hmm. You know, I think even Kevin Durant said that one time, because like, dude, no, every because like it was that phase where people were like calling him like Durantula and like putting him fucking big spider face, his face on a big fucking spider, which that would be cool. That would be a weird fucking thing. Or like then they started calling him the Slim Reaper, and then that's when like the graphics got really good, and he literally just looked like this skinny, like his eyes, they didn't make him normal either. They're like yellow and fucked up, and he's just like holding onto a basketball with like a scythe, and like he really got offended by that, and he was just like, I think he said, I would prefer to be called, you know, like the servant, and the public didn't take too well. Media didn't take too well to that, because he is real, like pretty Jesus-y.
A concept around like kind of the servitude is I've been watching some documentaries lately about like some spiritual sort of aspects, and one of them is about how all of the people on this planet have a spirit inside of them, and it's all a part of a collective oneness of energy, right? But it's everyone is their own individual spirit, and the reason that they're here is because the earth is like the best teacher, and everyone has to like meet certain like progressional levels of spirituality to reach enlightenment. And so being in servitude to others is like one of those latter phases of like you're almost there, because you're understanding what it takes to get there, but you need to be helping people get through the hurdles and trauma and stuff that is really kind of holding them back from like getting on that same sort of path.
Right, dude, you almost wonder like if the entire planet had like, or let's take our entire planet, let's just say like there was like a group of people or whatever that just had a shift of consciousness, and let's tie it into hair, right? Instead of trying to, because I know salons, I won't name them, but like their goals are to produce the highest numbers possible, most volume of products sold, cutting hair for the most people. So people, they work as fast as possible instead of actually thinking about what haircut would suit this person the best, you know? Or maybe the haircut is insignificant, or like, how am I going to spend my time with this person the best so that they walk away feeling good, right? I wonder if the industry made that conscious decision, what would happen? Like, how would people start looking at beauty? You know?
Yeah.
It will never happen.
Yeah, no.
It won't never happen unless everyone starts drinking ayahuasca at the same time. But I wonder about things like that, because like especially with beauty, you know, like you go in to look better, and we're very good at doing that because we don't place regulations on it, a lot of things, so we start injecting a lot of weird poisons, you know, into ourselves. Like Botox was such a weird thing, dude.
Botox is actually like antidepressant.
Really?
Yeah. There's something about it that has antidepressant properties. Not just like, oh, I look different, but like the actual chemical itself.
Man, if you Botox your tongue, would you not be able to talk anymore?
You'd be able to go down on some things.
Yeah, I wonder that. I wonder that with like a lot of industries beyond beauty. You know, like I guess like with Japanese food in particular. That's why I love the concept of omakase, which is like chef's choice. because that.
So they make a meal.
When you're at the sushi,
you don't get much choice. It's just whatever they make.
No, you communicate with the sushi chef. So your meal is not just
It's not
a server bringing you some shit like at Red Lobster. It's sorry, I had to do some Maine reference.
Yeah, right.
But like it's
Lobster.
It's like the chef talks to you, and
He basically investigates your palate.
yeah. So he's like he's like kind of like ayahuasca but with fish. You know, and he's just like guiding you through like the spiritual shit of like fish or whatever, and it's awesome. But like it's like the worst like when you go with someone and like I had this happen the other day. Like these three white dudes. One of them actually looked like Dan Blazarian, and
Who's that?
he's just this dude that made like super rich. Just got a social media dude. Yeah. Machine guns and like bitches. Tanks and bitches. Yeah. So one of them looked like him. He's like super jacked, and like it was this other guy who like he asked for omakase, and I was like, oh cool, that's awesome. But then like he started like talking in like a weird Japanese accent, and I always think it's so weird when white people do this. I don't get it. And like when they talk to the chef, like why don't you just fucking talk to the chef? Yeah. But like he's just like, I think for all three of us, we have one food allergy. His scallops swell his throat, and I'm just like, why don't you just fucking tell the chef to not do scallops?
Yeah, the chef's just like, so no scallops?
Yeah, and well, then it turned out to be like more weird because then it started off with like the main Japanese guy, and then I think he kind of was just like, let me pass you off onto Mario. So then, like,
I think it's like called a microaggression, or like a micro insult, when you're not inadvertently insulting somebody because of what your perception is of them.
Yeah. I mean, because like out here, like in Denver, there's a place called Izakaya Den, and the sushi chef, I know that like he's changing his vocabulary. You know what I mean? To like, it's just so fucked up to watch like in that situation.
Like he's absorbing it, or
he's absorbing it, and it's just like all these people, they're just acting so different to like order sushi. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's what I just said before.
It's so fucking weird, and like it makes me like want to go on a fucking huge rant about like how like I love eating at these places, but I fucking hate everyone who's inside.
Right.
And like
it's like you speak English, it's like you're in an English speaking country, like you shouldn't have to.
We're in a white neighborhood.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Have to like pretend to like have a, you know.
Right, and then like and then the waiter comes around and they're just like, oh yeah, we'll have a Chardonnay, please.
Yeah.
And it's like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? It's an interesting thing, man.
Fucking people.
Yeah, right. Fucking people. I could say like, dude, I don't think I've ever ended I don't think I end a majority of my days. Not my work day. It's just that there's the end of my work day, but then there's the end of my day. It never ends with that sort of just like disgruntledness towards people, and I don't know if people think that's cool.
You never have a disgruntled?
No, not at all. I mean, I might be like mad at like a person, but as like the collective whole, I realize like how I realize how dependent I am on my entire species, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm not mad at them. I'm trying to understand, right, how it all fits and how it all works.
Yeah, one thing I developed from my meditation practice is I call it a mantra or whatever, but compassion for the ignorance.
Sure, absolutely.
You always have to like keep that compassion for people that may not see things the way you do and may act differently, but it's just
right.
And it's just people, you know.
Well, that's the thing is like I've come to find that like I enjoy being around the company of people who have like higher levels of like tolerance.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing.
It's definitely a good thing, and it's interesting because like I start to almost wonder, when did people become so intolerable? You know, like over the smallest like shit.
Fear.
You know what I mean? Like people like will just be like, oh man, like oh, I feel so relaxed right now. And I'm just like, yeah, me too, after I jerk off. And then like people will just be like, ew, what the fuck? And it's just like, what? Like that's like when a man thinks at his clearest.
The cloud.
Yeah, the cloud's like gone. It's like, dude, you turn.
It's like there's something about marriage.
Yeah, dude, when
It's
you
like
were.
you gotta jerk off before you go on the date.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't just be worried about how to like get in her pants. You'll have a clear mind.
You'll be able to like finally think and be like clear. And it's like, you know, like all the women listening to this, we're not like trying to be fucked up. It's like a true thing. As
Sometimes
a
you get a
male.
little jizz on your ear.
Like in what? There's something about Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was just referencing.
I fucking love that movie, dude. I've been just going on a huge binge. I fucking love The Girl Next Door. Like, all that shit. It's awesome. But, yeah, man. The ending comes to you, man. I'm throwing the last assist to you.
Dunk. Yeah, I mean, my life is interesting. I've transcended a lot of things that was holding on to a lot before. Just kind of letting go, and like if you can let go of the resistance that is associated with like the egoic mind, and that's kind of like what propagates happiness and the finer things in life, living more minimally, not worrying about like the new iPhone 12X or whatever the stupid shit is. But yeah, I mean, I'm just fulfilling kind of my gift, I think, of being able to help people. I have a pretty like calming presence from the feedback I get, and you know, just being able to help people get over any sort of emotional hurdles that they're dealing with is gonna just, you know, keep fueling me.
Right.
Keep fueling my progression.
Yeah, I mean, I really do hope to see something in my lifetime to where like I see like a big collective of an entire consciousness of something changing. It would be so cool to see. If I ever saw that in the beauty industry, I would be floored.
Yeah, it requires a paradigm shift. And the thing with current paradigms is that people will want to change something, but if it's still fitting into the same paradigm, it's just going to create conflict, and it's not going to do anything. But eventually, there has to be a whole shift of the paradigm in order to like transcend that concept. So I have a lot of hope with the youth.
So do I. That's why I love the podcast medium, is because I think it just allows anyone to just so quickly put things onto a platform where people can discuss and speak, right, really freely. And in beauty, no wonder there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's because it's not necessary towards the culture of it.
Right.
So by trying to have it, it's definitely helpful, but it's like oddly rebellious at the same time, because it definitely clashes against it. But I don't know, like I said, I'm a liar. I'm always going to try to keep fucking things over.
Yeah. No, I find the podcast is very valuable. Basically, like the thoughts that I've always had the nature that, you know, our collective unconsciousness is we're all connected in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so things that I'm like spiritually progressing on, I figured just in the small circle of people that I associate with, like it'll, you know, not necessarily influence them in a severe way, but like give a little like lube to their thought process and like help.
Say lube?
Lube, yeah. Keep it fluid. But yeah, having this platform of just people that want to, you know, experience something like a video podcast, it kind of accelerates the whole notion that I had about it. So
nice.
I'm finding some solace in taking this opportunity. So.
Nice. Well, on the count of 3, omakase.
Is that like our clap thing again?
What? No. That's how I was gonna close it out.
We say the word
omakase.
Omakase.
Yeah. I'm like a Korean dude who doesn't know any Korean, speaks Spanish, and knows like one Japanese word.
You're lying.
I know. All right, dude.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Omakase!
and